Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to episode 5 of Fpl Hotline. I'm your host, Matt Tomo, joined as always by Taz. What's up, Taz?
What's up?
Gash. What's up, Gash?
Yo.
And C4. What's going on, man?
Today's been a really good day.
All right, don't care. Let's move on. Sorry, I did that to you. We got about 4 days left until the season, so we figured today we would go over our final team drafts. I don't want to say final because I know I'm changing mine probably a couple more times before the deadline, but almost there, almost our final draft. So we'll go through that, and then we'll go through some basic questions, and so let's get started. Who wants to go first?
I'll go.
All right, Gash. So let's take a look at Gash's team first. Let's make sure we read it out for people listening. Whoa.
That's messed up, man.
All right, let's pull up Gash's team and let's make sure we read it out loud for the people listening on the podcast.
Oh, beauty right there.
All right.
So I'll start going. So I have Matt Ryan in goal. I went with him. I really tried to focus on having a 4.5 million cent forget keeper this season, and it was between him and McCarthy. And I just, I'll touch on it a little bit later, but Matt Ryan's my keeper in there. My starting three in the back are Kyle Walker-Peters, Andy Robertson, and Trent Alexander-Arnold. I was debating this, and I decided to go with the Liverpool double up. I really like the guaranteed point potential there. And then Kyle Walker-Peters is my first of three Southampton players I have in my team. Is 4.5 million, a really good option at the back. And Southampton have good fixtures to start, so I was really happy there. My midfield four are Souček, Aubameyang, Salah, and Armstrong, and I'm captaining Aubameyang this week with Salah as my vice captain. Souček was the 5.0 million. Tough fixtures at the start, but he has potential to get forward and score a decent amount of points, which is why I have him in there. And then Aubameyang and Salah are my two premiums in midfield. I think I need too much of an explanation for either of those guys. Constantly in the Golden Boot race, and they're both, really leaders of FPL teams everywhere. And then Armstrong is a player for my second of three Southampton players, so you can tell I'm kind of high on Southampton with this team. But he looked really good post restart, and very creative. And I think with feeding Danny Ings up top, he has a really clinical finisher that he can kind of lean on to create chances for. And then my starting three forwards are Che Adams, Timo Werner, and Mitrovic. So Adams is my third of three Southampton players. He's a 6.0 million. That started a lot more games post restart than he had earlier. So I think he'll be the second striker for their system there, kind of like a 4-4-2 almost. And he looked really good and very sharp post restart, so that's why I decided to keep him in there. And then Timo Werner is my premium striker. I'm really excited to see. Well, I'm not excited to see what he does as a United fan, but I am excited to see what he does as an FPL player with him on my team. I think he's a really clinical finisher, and he can make a difference for Chelsea. And then Mitrovic was someone I owned a few years back, and he got off to a pretty good start that season, if I remember correctly. Maybe the first 10 game weeks he was doing pretty well. So glad to have him in there. And then my bench is, at least relatively straightforward for the first game week. I have Walton, who is going to be battling Matt Ryan, I believe, for the number one spot. From what I've seen, he's going to be the number two to start. But, I just really wanted, in case Ryan gets hurt, to have the next Brighton keeper in there. I have Ayling from Leeds, 4.5 million. He seems pretty nailed at right back, and Leeds signed another center back, so he shouldn't have to shift into the middle. And then I have Greenwood and Taylor. Greenwood is my Man United cover, blanking first game week, so I have him on the bench. And Taylor is my Burnley defense cover, also blanking, so I have him on the bench.
All right, looking pretty good. Are you trying to take somebody out for KDB a couple weeks in?
Yeah.
Is that like in your mind?
Yeah, I think so. We'll probably touch on that later in this episode, but my plan, I don't want to take out Aubameyang to KDB. I'm selfish and I want KDB in there while keeping Aubameyang and Salah, but it looks like it'd have to be one of those two guys moving.
One of them, yeah.
To make room.
Yeah. All right, C4, you want to show us your team next, buddy?
Yeah, so that last example was a team you don't want in FPL. This is the team you want. So going in goal, have the Saints goalkeeper McCarty. Very similar back line to Gash with Robertson, Kyle Walker-Peters, Trent Alexander-Arnold. Then we have the 4.0 Mitchell from Crystal Palace. In midfield, a little different for me this year. Starting off, I usually like to go with 4-man midfield, 3-man midfield with Aubameyang, ASM, and Salah. And then up top, we have Warner, Harry Kane, Mitrovic. My bench consists of 4.0 Nyland. I just thought at the time of creating my team, he'd be the best backup option. I don't even know how to say his name. Ususuma as my 4.5.
Yeah, that's not it.
As my 4.5 midfielder, Johnson as another 4.0 defender from West Ham, and then Reed as another 4.5 midfielder. I think
it's just Basuma. I don't know why you added some extra S's in there.
Yep.
Man,
it doesn't look that hard of a name.
I don't actually know how to read. I just memorize a lot of words. So maybe that's why. I think the only important thing to note on my team, though, is that currently I have Aubameyang set as my triple captain for game week 1, which I'll get into more later. But aside from that, I might do a little more tinkering with my offensive line, but I'm pretty happy with my team going into game week 1.
Taz?
I'm ready. So, as you can see, I have somewhat of a different back line compared to the others. I didn't. I have McCarthy starting with Nyland and as my bench keeper. As mentioned before, Saints have a pretty decent set of fixtures starting forward, so I chose McCarthy. Have Trent Alexander-Arnold in there. I feel like everyone starting their teams has him. I went with Doherty as my choice. Didn't go for the Liverpool double up in the back. We'll mention a little bit later on in the episode. And then right now, Vinagre is in my team, but he's just a placeholder. I haven't fully decided on my 4.5 million defender is going to go in that spot as I'm going with 3-5-2 formation. Moving into my midfield, I have Aubameyang, Salah, the big hitters, the premium assets, followed by Son, coverage for the Spurs. Decent set of fixtures to start the season, as well as Saha, who's my kind of differential, like risky pick, who's been playing out of position as a forward in preseason and has scored pretty couple goals. And we'll talk about it a little bit later. And then St. Maxim is my cheap budget option for my midfield. And then as my 2 strikers, I have Werner and Shea Adams with Brewster on the bench, and then Mitchell and Johnson's for my 4.0 defenders as well on the bench.
Interesting. Yeah, a lot different from the first two. Brewster, are you expecting a loan for Brewster, or you want him as a Liverpool asset?
I just want I liked him the best as the cheapest option. I'm not even set on it yet. I could easily downgrade Zaha to another 5.5 million cheap budget and upgrade Brewster to a 6 million budget option that actually starts and I can guarantee points from. That's something I'm still thinking about and probably will decide upon like hours before the deadline. So
yeah, one of those last minute calls. Yeah. All right, let's pull my team up. Let's see.
Oh God.
Hey, there we go. All right, so we got Ryan in goal. You know, everybody knows he was a favorite last year. Might switch him over to McCarthy. Still debating that one, but for now it's Ryan. And then I went with the Liverpool double in the back line, Alexander-Arnold and Robertson. You know, can't go wrong with them. I feel like you're essentially getting Liverpool midfielders for 7 mil, and that's awesome. They have huge clean sheet probability, and they both get up and get a lot of attacking returns as well. I'm still sticking with Vinagre as my third defender there. It's a little bit up in the air right now with the whole Wolves transfers situations, but you know, if he's playing, I want him as a 4.5 option there. And my bench defenders are Douglas from Leeds and Ferguson from Palace. Ferguson's injured right now, but expecting him to come back within a couple weeks. Don't want to have to waste a transfer on him later on. Let's move on to the midfield. We got Mo Salah, of course, and Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang as the 2 big hitters in the middle. Also, I'm probably swapping one of them out for KDB in a week or two. It's going to be a tough call. Initially, I was thinking I'll just swap Aubameyang out, but now I'm thinking I want to hold on to him. So that'll be a decision a little further down the line. Then I got Susek and Saka and Stevens to round out my midfield. I'm the only one with Saka, so I'll talk about him for a little bit. Feeling pretty good about him last season. In all competitions, out of all Premier League players, only Trent and KDB had more assists than him last season. He's only 18, coming up for Arsenal. They gave him the number 7 kit this year. And, I had to let my Arsenal bias shine through a little bit on my team selection. So there it is. Expecting big things from Saka. If he could do what he did last year at 5.5, I'll be thrilled. And let's move on to the forwards. I got Mitrovic, solid 6.0 option. As Gash said, showed us what he could do in the Prem a couple seasons ago. And I got Timo Werner as well. Seems to be like a template player for a lot of people. I think Werner probably has over 50% ownership at this point, right? If not, he's got to be close. Or am I bugging? Is that way too high?
I think it's way too high.
He's at 47.4.
48. All right, so that was close. Yeah, it seems like everybody's got Werner. I'm pretty excited to see what he can do. And last but certainly not least, got Jamie Vardy up top. It's always a Vardy party for FC Tomo. Trusted in him every year, and I'm going to trust in him for the beginning of this year too. See how it goes. Some people are expecting him to slow down, but somebody's got to score some goals for Leicester. So I think it's going to be him. So basically that's the best team out of the 4 of ours, I think. But we'll see a little bit later how we rank each other's teams. So any key talking points from our squad selection? Let me see. I got some stuff written down here. So let's talk about the double Liverpool defenders a little bit, because 3 of us have that situation going. Gash, can you kind of tell us what made you choose the double Liverpool option? Little risky in years past, but kind of seems like a no-brainer, at least to me right now. So how do you feel about it?
Yeah, a lot of my thinking behind it was looking at how they did last season. And I think, people like to point out that at the start of last season, they went, maybe 10 or 15 game weeks while hardly keeping any clean sheets. And I think a big part of that was they were adjusting to a new defensive system, and Alisson was also out for, a huge chunk of that run. So I think once he came back and they really, got into the rhythm, they were keeping, clean sheet after clean sheet for a while there. And I think that's what I'm hoping for. I'm not really too worried necessarily about Trent and Robbo getting forward because I think they'll, get your attacking returns regardless. It's just really that the clean sheets that can, propel them into elite status. They were both, I think Trent scored maybe about 210 points last season, and Robertson was slightly behind that. For that, point scoring, if you could get a 7.0 midfielder that scored that many points, you'd be ecstatic. And I think that's the same thing just because they're, playing in the back.
Yeah, that was my thinking. I tried to tell myself, all right, just think of one of them as a midfielder. You're getting a 7.0 Liverpool midfielder with the potential to score 200 plus. It's almost too good to be true in my head. C4, what do you think?
Yeah, I'm kind of agreeing there with you guys on the later points of I kind of yo-yoed with this back with my first draft of it kind of made sense to me to not play a 3 at the back this year just because of if you're comparing the premium defender options with mid-range midfielder options in that 7.0, I would say all the way up to 9.0 range. I asked this episode on the last podcast, I don't see any of them outscoring a Trent or a Robertson, or at least not outscoring them enough to justify the $1 or $1.5 million difference there. So that was my thinking to it. I almost went overboard and played a 5 at the back this year when I had my first draft just because of that thinking. So I'm not usually comfortable with the 3-man midfield, but like you said, that mentality of, Trent and Robo are basically a midfielder helps a lot with that.
I just want to say one thing. You've been calling him Robo for a while. Yeah. I'm pretty sure it's Robbo. It's Robertson, not Robertson. So just something to keep in mind. RoboCop.
Sorry, dude. I think
I don't know if that's just your Canadian. Yeah, I don't know if that's your Canadian coming through or whatnot, but let's try to keep it American here, okay? And let's kind of flip on the other side of this question. Taz, why don't you kind of tell us why you didn't go for the double Liverpool option?
Basically went for it last season. Didn't turn out so well, as Gash mentioned before. Even though Alisson was still out, that's kind of a big factor in it. I ended up having to transfer one of them out. I believe it was Robertson last season after a couple of game weeks. So for me, it's I don't want to really risk it upon just even not even specifically Liverpool double up, but I just wouldn't want to risk any defensive double up in the back just because it's kind of a little bit unpredictable going to the start of the season. The way I set it up though is like I have Doherty, which is like offers me a different team that's viable still for clean sheets, but he's only $1 million less than Robertson. So if Liverpool do start off really well, and I can see they're getting defensive returns as well as attacking returns, I can easily transfer in a Robertson. You know, I have like Zaha in my team, but that's the one like kind of like my risky player that if it doesn't work out, I can take that funds and upgrade elsewhere where I see other maybe premium assets are doing better, so I can always upgrade. But I mean, a big argument is that like I feel like everyone thinks they're gonna get 200 points again. I believe they're gonna like both of them are gonna average around like 180. I don't think either one of them is actually gonna break 200 points. You know, Robertson 2 years ago when he broke that 100, he set the record for 213 points. Liverpool had a like absurd 21 clean sheets, which I just don't think they're gonna keep this season without signing anyone to help out in the back. You know, if Van Dijk or even Robertson are trying to get injured, that's the Liverpool defense is looking significantly different, as well as when Robertson last season he had such a crazy haul of attacking returns that just made up for not getting those clean sheets. So I mean, I believe Liverpool's still gonna get at least 15 clean sheets, but I don't think they're gonna be like crazy scoring as they were or as people expect them to.
Okay, and you picked Trent out of the two of them, right?
Yeah, I believe Trent's the better option.
Yeah, I think so too. I think he's worth the extra 0.5. Let's move from Liverpool over to Newcastle, C4, your boys. Let's talk about ASM a little bit. I think you're the only one out of the four of us to have ASM in your team. He was a popular pick for a couple of game weeks. Oh, Taz, you have him too?
Yeah.
All right, yeah. So ASM was a popular pick for a couple game weeks last season. He went on that little tear. I think you said, what was it? Most of his points came within like a 2-3 week tear. I think Gasher brought that up in one of our episodes.
Yeah, Gash knows that one.
So you guys... So C4, are you expecting more consistency from him this year? Are you expecting some of those points to be spread out? Are you expecting an improvement? I know you were really excited about Fraser and Wilson signing, and you talked a bit about how that could make ASM better. So is that still your mentality here?
So it's the C4 yo-yo coming back out of ASM was in my first draft, but then up until the moves that Newcastle made this week, he quickly came out of my draft. Now that he has those other offensive tools to work with up top, I think that makes him a very viable 5.5 option. And with those fixtures in the first 8-9 game weeks, I'd love to have him on my team.
Taz, what's your thinking about him?
Same, but it kind of struggled more. Mine was more along the lines of like how I was formatting my team. So basically, I was looking at it. I know like Gash went with the double of Liverpool. He had the triple of Saints, but he went with Shea Adams and I believe it was Armstrong. For me, I kind of think Armstrong is a better option over Saint Maximum, but I didn't want to have Shea Adams and Armstrong, so I kind of went for a little bit of diversity. I do believe his stock price has increased because of the signings Newcastle made, and I believe it's something like it's more of like I feel like everyone's gonna pick like that budget midfielder in the beginning of the season that they think they're gonna start off well, and almost everyone's gonna be wrong, and there's gonna be a different budget midfielder that goes off, and then we're all gonna just jump on that hype train. So I think just for now, I think just like just for me, it's more of like diversifying my team so I can later on see who I want and transfer in.
If I could also point out with ASM today, another nice Twitter burn for Newcastle fans. Tweeted a nice picture of him in an empty stadium saying he's congratulating all the Southampton fans for being, the Sunderland fans for being back in the Premier League.
Oh, man. I think you might be one of the only people to follow the Newcastle Twitter account. So keep us posted on his personal, man. Oh, sorry. So Taz, you've spoken a lot about diversifying your team in your last two answers. So let's shift gears a little bit to somebody who didn't diversify their team all that much. Gash, you got 3 Saints players in your team. Some would say it's ballsy. Some would say it's genius. What do you think? What say you?
I'd be part of the portion of people that say it's genius. I was, kind of relating it back to ASM. I was going to say the one reason I would pick ASM over Armstrong in my team personally is because I have 2 other Saints players, and I'd be, wary of the triple up that I currently have. So I am kind of still weighing that option. But I think all things considered, if you had to pick either, ASM or Armstrong, I think Armstrong comes out, maybe not super, super far ahead, but definitely by a decent margin. I was actually just looking at the fixture difficulties as well. And C4, I don't know what you were talking about, but over the first 9 game weeks, Newcastle are in the bottom half in terms of how good their fixtures are at the start. So it's really it's nothing I would consider, especially with Southampton having, by the same measure, Southampton have the second best fixtures for the first 9 game weeks. So I would really, really swings it.
I'm looking at ASM's fixtures right now. I have to retract that. He doesn't have a good. I'm just looking at the Premier League website. I'm giving it the eye test. I would say, you know what? He doesn't have a good 8 fixtures. He has a good 14 fixtures. Look at those bad boys.
Oh man!
So I
guess the delusion is still there from a couple of days ago.
Yeah, no,
I guess your excitement delusion is still there from Fraser and Callum Wilson.
I don't blame him. That's excitement. He's not really thinking logically, so that's okay.
Yeah, we'll let him stay in fantasy land before the season starts, before shit gets real.
Yeah, I know.
All right, let's move on from there, and let's talk about some Spurs options. I saw a couple Spurs players littered throughout you guys' teams. So which one of you had Harry Kane? What was that? C4?
Delusional boy.
C4. Yeah. Let's continue the delusion and tell us about Harry Kane.
So, I feel like there was kind of some heat after England's second Nations League game with Harry Kane's performance. I saw a lot of knee-jerk reactions of trying to take him out of the squad. I wouldn't lie, for a brief, I would say 30 minutes, I was like, oh, crap, who am I dropping him for? To get someone else in my squad. Then, I sat back, had some chicken nuggets, and I thought, looking at Kane's performance both last season under Jose and how he typically does in the first 8 game weeks, I felt good with my decision still. I just want to point this out. I don't know where this myth comes from of Kane doesn't perform well to begin the season. Over the last 3 seasons in his first 8 games, 2019, 2020, 5 goals, 1 assist. Year before that, 5 goals, 1 assist. And then the year before that, 6 goals in his first 8 games.
It was August specifically.
What, that's 2 game weeks? I'm looking more at the first 8 because that's where I see him sticking in my team. Also, not to point out, under Jose last year, in 18 games that Kane played while Mourinho was the manager, he returned 12 goals and 1 assist, and over a full 38-game schedule, that would translate to a 25-goal pace, which would have been good enough to win the Gold Boot last year. I feel confident with him. I think he's the best premium striker as of right now. The only way I see myself taking him out of my squad is if he does complete dog shit or if Aguero starts going off. I honestly think I'm more likely I might do is take Warner out, but that's a different discussion. As long as we're talking Spurs players, if I do end up taking Warner out, I might double up on the Spurs attack and bring Dele Alli in. Because, that Spurs documentary on Amazon Prime, seeing how Mourinho talks about Dele Alli, it inspires me right here, right in my heart, and into my FPL team.
I mean, I didn't watch the Spurs doc yet, but I don't know what could be in there that would make me want Dele Alli on my fantasy team. But,
can I give you one line?
Yeah, what's up?
Mourinho, he sits down with Dele Alli and he says, he sat down with Levy, the owner of Spurs, and he said, there was one thing Alex Ferguson told me before he left. Buy Dele Alli. That's all I have to say.
No way.
He did.
Can I give one other line?
Yeah.
In the middle of a team meeting, Mourinho looked at Dele Alli and said, "You are lazy as shit."
That's the Dele Alli I know.
That's yeah.
All right, let's go from one shit player. A Spurs player to another. Let's talk about Son a little bit. Taz, why don't you tell us about Son?
So I know starting off for me, I wanted to have a Spurs player, an attacking player in their first 8 matches. 6 of their matches only score 2 on the fixture difficulty rating. So a lot of good matches to start the season for them. And for me, it was between Kane and Son. And then I think Kane might be the slightly better option because he's the forwards guaranteed more time up top. But I just couldn't fit him in my team money-wise. I'm more than happy, though, to own Son. A lot of people said under Mourinho he plays a lot more defensively, but still under Mourinho, since Mourinho joined, he averaged 5.9 points per match, and then he was also involved in 49% of the goals Spurs scored more than any other player in the team. He has also had a pretty good preseason. Preseason isn't the biggest thing, but at the same time, he was involved in 6 of the 9 goals Spurs scored in the 4 matches I believe they played. So it kind of shows me that he's kind of keeping this form going into the new season, and it's kind of one of those players that, like, if I don't really like him how he's going, maybe he is off just a poor start, I can easily downgrade him to one of the Chelsea midfielders that are on my watch list if they are performing well, or I can even find $500,000 to upgrade him to Rashford if the Manchester boys are doing well. So that's just my take on why I want to own him.
So it sounds like you got some backup plans ready just in case. That makes sense. Yeah. All right, moving on from Spurs. Let's talk about Crystal Palace a little bit. Let's talk about Zaha. Taz, why don't you tell us what you were thinking there?
Oh, Zaha. So for me, I was kind of, when I build my team first, I was like, I had my core players of, like, I know I definitely want a Werner, definitely want another 6.5 million pound striker to go along with him, as well as I knew my 2 big hitters were going to be start of the season was Aubameyang and Salah, and both of them I'm going to be more than comfortable transferring in and out during the season for other premium assets, depending on who's in form, and also give me a little bit of consideration to fixtures. And then I had my back line where I knew for sure I wanted Trent and another premium defender, and then the budget options. And it kind of left me with this place in my midfield where I kind of was like, I can afford something a bit more premium than just the 5.5 and another 5.5. So I kind of went with Zaha, who's been, didn't have the best season last year, but during the preseason, he's been playing in a forward position, which I believe is going to continue for Crystal Palace going to the season. And he's been also in their in the preseason, he's also been returned 3 goals and 2 assists out of the 4 games I believe they played. And to me, that kind of shows a little bit of good numbers. I don't expect him to go off. I know for me, it's just more of like a punt and see if he does well. If it doesn't work out after a couple of game weeks, I can easily downgrade him to another premium budget option that is doing well, and I can use the funds elsewhere to either upgrade or downgrade some of the players.
Yeah, it makes sense.
Price with him to then use that budget elsewhere to upgrade the players.
Right. Makes sense. Yeah, I was a little confused by your addition of Zaha, honestly. Seemed a year or 2 behind, but I guess we'll see how it works. Let's move on from forwards back to goalkeepers. Ryan McCarthy is getting more and more popular as an option, it seems like. Which of you guys had him? Was it who had C4. Yeah. It's hard to remember all you guys' teams. So let's talk about McCarthy a little bit. C4. What was your thought in bringing him in?
I kind of thought, just based off of Saints fixtures, his price, that it was a safe set and forget option. I'm honestly kind of shocked that 2 of you guys don't have him. I feel like he's the consensus 4.5 pick this season, and honestly, I'm asking you guys justify not having him. Like, I could see with Gash's team, at least from my perspective, there'd be a reason not to have him with having 3 other Saints players. But I'm kind of just wondering what your guys' thought process is there of not having him.
Yeah, so like my thought process of not having him is just there really isn't much of a thought process. I just picked Ryan first when I was setting my team. Yeah, that I don't know, man. I just picked Ryan, and I'm just sticking with Ryan for now. See if I change my mind before the deadline.
So for me personally, I think Ryan's going to have more save points in the first run of fixtures there. And it's actually interesting. Ryan is actually is selected by a higher percentage of players right now than McCarthy is. Ryan's at 21.1, Pope is at 21.2 is the highest, and then McCarthy is third at 19.7. So they're all actually really close to each other. But that was my thinking, at least, is he's going to rack up a good amount of save points. A big thing for me too is the eye test. I've seen him play, and I think he's a pretty solid keeper. And then again with the triple Saints, the way I evaluated it, at least, I'd rather have all of those 3 other players in my team for their prices and what they bring than having McCarthy in goal.
So just a question: was it you also have Ryan's backup?
Yeah. Walton.
Do you think does that play into it at all either? Just to know you're safe that if Ryan.
Yeah, it definitely helps me mentally, because if he does get hurt or anything like that, or even if he's playing poorly, I mean, I would have to either transfer him out, or if the backup comes in and then I have a starting 4.0 keeper. So it's just kind of like the safety net, yeah.
But doesn't that worry you that you might be relying on a 4.0 backup at some point?
No, if he's doing well, then kudos to him. If he's doing poorly, then I'll have to make a transfer anyway to get a better keeper in. So
it's interesting. It seems like, what?
I'm just going to say I don't think we have to really worry about 4.0 keepers. I just want to put it out there. I know someone who has a game week 1 draft right now, and he has no starting keeper. So I think as far as our choices go, we're doing pretty well.
Yeah, I think we're killing it. Taz, why don't you tell us about your McCarthy thoughts?
Yeah, so one thing that going to thinking about it is the whole another couple of 4.5 million defenders that are popular are like Kyle Walker-Peters and Lawton from Brighton. So for me, it was more of like a mix and match of like I don't want to own both of them. So for me, I chose McCarthy first because I think he's just gonna have a better start of the season than Matt Ryan will. But if I do go with Kyle Walker-Peters in my defense, then I'll just switch McCarthy to Ryan. Gash does have a good point of you're having a guaranteed backup in the 4.0 million, whereas if you go with McCarthy, his backup done is 4.5, so you spend that extra $500,000 if you want to have that guaranteed backup. But with that, I'm willing to risk it and not having a guaranteed backup. If something happens to McCarthy, I'll just have to make the transfer or lose points for that game week if he does get injured after the deadline. But I'm more confident in Saints keeping more clean sheets in the beginning and their defensive potential.
How many points do you get for a clean sheet as a keeper?
4.
Yeah.
And how many per save?
Every 3 saves. Sorry, every 3 saves is 1 point. Yeah.
1 point.
Okay. That's an interesting idea to have. I know in fantasy football we call that a handcuff. Having the guys back up, having your keepers back up. I never really thought about that for FPL. That's always on my mind for fantasy football. I always draft your running backs handcuff, but that's interesting too for the keeper. That's a good idea. I might take that one from you guys.
What can I say?
Let's move on here. So let's get into the blanks. Blanks are annoying. Everybody knows that. Usually they come up a little later in the season, but we got some pretty big blanks game week 1. We got both Manchester clubs, United and City are blanking, as well as Burnley and Aston Villa. So let's kind of talk about how we're handling that game week 1 blank. That's tough because a lot of people are counting on United and City assets. Probably not as much for Burnley and Villa, but still, there's still some good players on those clubs as well. So, Gash, why don't you kind of speak about your plan for handling the game week 1 blanks and take it away.
Sure. So I have actually 2 players blanking in the first game week on my team. I have Mason Greenwood and Taylor on the bench. And my thinking behind that is kind of, I definitely want, certain United and City assets and even, a Burnley defender that I have now. And I didn't want to spend too many free transfers making them or after a few game weeks or even, taking a hit that early in the season. And the way I look at it, at least, yes, there is some value being left on the bench for game week 1 for me, but I would rather have that than have to spend the money or the transfers to do it. I think that I'm going to have a hard enough time getting, other City assets or other United assets early in the season. So I'd rather, kind of play it safe almost and have these, the 2 players at least that I picked on my team already rather than worrying about, planning transfers too far in advance than, something happening that screws up my plans anyway. So I'd rather, it's kind of like the safety net type thing for me.
Do you have one particular transfer in mind that you want to make after the first game week or after the second game week?
Yeah, I mean, I know I want KDB somewhere in my team from early on in the season. I haven't decided if that's before game week 2 or before game week 3 yet, and that's something that's going to, might change in my head with the price rises as well. And then I want Bruno Fernandes. I don't think right now I'm going to be able to fit him in But then, I could always, bring in someone like Martial if Werner's not doing too well, and I could easily it's an easy switch to make since Martial is $500,000 cheaper. So kind of a couple in mind, but maybe nothing super set.
Yeah, the fantasy Premier League gods are throwing us a big challenge right at week 1.
Yep.
A lot of people getting screwed over by this. Taz, how are you dealing with it?
So I think what the strategy Gash went with, but having Greenwood on your bench is the only viable one in terms of owning those players and keeping them on your bench. I feel like with Greenwood at 7.5, that's the only price point where it's okay. You have the brilliant defender 4.5, which isn't that much money wasted because you just have another 4.5 defender. So if anything, you're just saving yourself the transfer. But I believe I was thinking about it too, having Greenwood, but I'm just not set on his underlying numbers, and I think I'd rather see. For me, it's more of seeing Son and Werner how they work out, and then my plan is I can either downgrade Werner to Martial, who I think will have a splendid season, or upgrade Son to Rashford, which I think is another solid option. But yeah, I think the best options would be just to save the money. If people are benching your KDBs, Bruno Fernandes's on the bench, I feel like that's a lot of money early on. That's you can just simply a big strategy I see is people so you just build your team with whatever player you want. So let's say you do want to own Martial, that game week 2, you just build your team that way, and then just transfer Martial just before the game week 1 deadline. Just instead of Martial, you pick up an Ings or a Jimenez, and then just take that one. You gotta use up that one transfer after game week 1 you'll have for it. So I think that's the other good strategy to do.
Yeah, that's a good way to do it. A good point too about leaving too much on the bench. I agree that Greenwood is probably Greenwood or Foden from City. I would feel comfortable leaving on the bench for game week 1, but anything above that value is just too many wasted funds in my mind. C4, how you dealing with the big blank?
So I think this kind of plays into my strategy with having 2 premium strikers, having 2 premium midfielders, then having a more set back line. Is I didn't want to waste transfers in those first 3-4 game weeks on defenders. I wanted to have those all allocated to midfielders and attackers to try and fit in City and United players where appropriate. And so I think my strategy at least is not considering a transfer at minimum until after game week 2, until Arsenal start having that tough stretch of fixtures. Although if Aubameyang does go off in both games, I think I can see myself riding it out, considering City's fixtures aren't the best to kick off the season. Where I'm more so looking now in terms of getting a United asset is Werner. I think the move down to Martial is really easy to make, and it makes a lot of sense. And then using that other 0.5 to strengthen perhaps my back line with upgrading one of my 4.0s to Burnley defender once the season kicks off and they no longer have a blank.
Mm-hmm. All right, let's move on from the game week 1 blanks to any last-minute moves that we are considering, anything that's on our mind. For me, I already mentioned that Ryan to McCarthy's on my mind. What else is on my mind? There was one more big one that I was thinking of. I don't know. Maybe it'll come to me when you guys are talking. Gash, is there any one or two moves that you got on your mind?
Oh, there is. There is a move in real life that I'm hoping materializes very soon.
Oh, not this again.
I'm very focused on. I still think Jadon Sancho is going to sign for United. I have Greenwood in there as a placeholder for now, but if Sancho signs, before the game week 1 deadline, I'm taking Greenwood out of my team because I think Sancho will drop right in at the right wing spot and Greenwood will move to the bench. And if that does happen, then I haven't decided yet what I would do, but it would be something like Werner to Martial is a possibility in there. Maybe not for game week 1, but save that free transfer and do it after the first game week. It depends on Ziyech and if he's fit or not before the game week 1 deadline. So there's another possibility there. If I can free up a $500,000 somewhere else on my team, then I can bring him in for Greenwood. That's I would say there are maybe 1 or 2 other minor things, but that's really kind of the big thing I'm focused on that my contingency plan is on.
What's the likelihood if you can give me a percentage wise of Sancho coming. What's your thought?
I would say between 99 and 100%.
Get the fuck out of here.
Hey, just so all our viewers know, I offered to bet you on this about this multiple times weeks back, and you didn't want to enter into a bet with me. So
I told you I wanted to bet.
Yeah, and I said $20,
and then I stalled a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah.
So let's go from Sancho delusion back over to our delusional Newcastle fan. C4, you got any last minute moves on your mind here?
I'm going to admit that Gash might have sold me on moving McCarthy over to Ryan Walton. I think he made a really good argument with the backup situation there. So
yeah, that's really good argument there. You might have got me with that too.
My plan's working.
Good job. I think I've mentioned it at least. Sorry, I think I mentioned it at least twice this episode that I'm more comfortable with the 3-4-3 from a fantasy perspective. And I think, especially if, I don't know if you guys saw the reports today now that Liverpool might be looking to move him on a permanent. If there is a 4.5 starting attacker, that makes it so much easier to fit in another premium midfielder. And I think I'd be very willing to move Warner out. I think a lot of people might be that now they're looking to just move him to another Premier League club.
Oh, there wasn't like a specific club attached to it?
There might have been. I only saw the...
Because I'm pretty confident to say right now that if he goes to any Premier League team, he's making it in my team at 4.5. Like if he goes anywhere with a chance of starting or at least getting somewhat consistent minutes, it's a no-brainer at 4.5. But if he stays at Liverpool, it's a no. But yeah. Taz?
Yeah, for me, it's I'm still not set my 4.5 million defender that I have back there. Right now, it's not great, but considering a bunch of other options, I think that's going to be someone I decide right before the deadline, as well as, my Zaha pick. I'm not fully set on him, I like it. I'm either going to, switch him to another budget midfielder, and then just upgrade either to a 3-4-3 or, split the funds and bring in Robertson, which that plan would probably be more if I keep Zaha and I go into the season after like a couple game weeks. That's when I would make that switch. Besides that, my main core plan is staying with Warner. That's somebody I'm willing to take the risk on, and he is a proven striker in the Euro, but I'm talking about in terms of in Premier League and seeing what kind of fantasy results he gets, as well as Aubameyang and Salah are both options that I have them for the first couple of game weeks, but I'm not too set on transferring Aubameyang now for KDB. I could easily transfer out Salah for KDB, or even transfer both of them out for KDB and Fernandes. It's something that's flowing around.
Yeah, that's in my head as well. The goalkeeper situation's in my head. The Vinagre situation's in my head. I'm probably going to have quite a few last-minute moves. And let's hope I don't fall asleep making them. So let's move on. Last thing we want to do here is we want to rank each other's teams. So what was the rules we set aside? We can't rank our own team.
You don't rank it. It's just the three other people, yeah.
You rank the three other people, and you score everybody on a scale of 1 to 3. You said?
No, we're just ranking them first.
Just ranking. Yeah. Okay. So how are we going to do this?
We each go one at a time, then we average out the scores after.
So you want to start us off?
Okay. So in third, Sorry Tomo, but I have you, and then in second, I have Taz, and Gash in first.
Okay.
Yes.
Gash.
I would go 3. Sorry, Tomo. I'd go C4 2 and Taz number 1.
Taz.
I'll go with so in third place, I'm going with Gash just because.
Yes.
He's playing the system. He's trying to knock my average down so he wins it.
I'm just not a big fan of the the triple up on on Southampton. They did have a great ending towards last season, but I think they're still a bottom half team, and I don't think they're gonna produce as well.
Fourth place in the last 25 years.
We'll see if they keep that up. And then for second place, I'll go with Tomo, and then first place I'll go with C4.
Sorry, did I change my name?
C4, you writing down these numbers?
Yeah, I'll average it out.
Okay, cool.
For me, I might have to change my answers now, based on where you guys ranked me. I'm gonna put C4's team in third.
Wow.
Yeah, sorry, buddy. Gashler in second, and my boy Taz in first. My Arsenal fan, Taz. Just because he's the only one who didn't put me last.
Okay, so it looks like Tomo, you're the fourth ranked team. Gash, me and you are actually tied. We both have a first, a second, and a third ranking. Then Taz is in first.
Can I change mine?
Nope.
We got to hear from the listeners too, guys. Let us know which team you think is the best if you hear this in time. If you're one of the 19 people who have listened so far on Spotify, please let us know.
And tell your friends so they can be number 20.
Yeah. All right, let's move on to
in the week from now, we'll know whose team did better. So,
yeah. All right. We don't have any fan questions this week since it's only been a day since our last recording, but make sure you guys get those in. Always call the hotline. I really want to play one of your guys' voice messages on the podcast. I think that'd be fun. So send in your voice messages. And last but not least, I heard we have a little bet going on between two of our co-hosts here, C4 and Taz. You guys want to talk about that a little bit?
Well, it kind of stems from a conversation we had earlier on where I basically made the argument that triple captains don't usually work out for me when I plan them out. So I'm just going with game week 1 triple captain and getting it done. Taz greatly disagreed with that. And so it kind of came to a bet of I'm going to play my triple captain game week 1. He'll play it whenever he likes. And I believe I'll get more points. He believes he'll get more points. The loser will have to do the equivalent of a Hot Ones episode on one podcast once that's decided.
That's going to be awesome. So you guys are going to get some spicy wings, eat one before every segment or something like that. We'll figure it out. That'll be fun.
Yeah. But
that'll be fun.
C4 used as first triple captain for this first game week. I don't believe we mentioned actually who we're captaining going to the game week 1, so we can quickly mention this now.
Oh yeah, we should. Mm-hmm.
All of us captain Aubameyang. We're pretty much all set on it. For me speaking,
I might change my mind. I'm really debating heavily between Alba and Salah.
So yeah, same for me. It's between Alba and Salah. I just picked Alba because he's 2 seasons ago he scored against Fulham, so it kind of brings me a little bit of comfort. But as well as I think Fulham are a weaker team to Leeds. I feel like Leeds, even though I don't believe they're going to keep the defensive record they had in the Premiership last season or Championship. I think they're still, I believe Liverpool's still going to win that game, but, it might be a way closer game of 2-1, 2-0 victory for them, where I think Arsenal have a higher chance, especially Alba scoring, and he also scored in preseason, so keeping that form up. So this is my pick for captain going to game week 1. Alba.
Yeah, I went with Alba, and I'm going to wait here. This will be a last-minute decision there. Some reports are saying that the Aubameyang contract extension could be announced on Friday. So if that's announced right before the game week, I think signing a new contract, a big announcement, everybody's all excited. Aubameyang, hat trick, it's coming. So if Aubameyang signs before the weekend, he will be my captain. If not, I think I'm going to go with Salah. So I think maybe I'll leave it up to that. If Aubameyang's announced before the game week, he'll be my captain. Gash, I just wanted to talk to you real quick. What's your prediction on their bet? Who are you rooting for? Are you rooting for C4 or are you rooting for Taz?
I actually think C4 is going to win it because Taz ranked me third in the thing we just
so we're all going to be really petty about this.
I think C4 is going to win it because, actually, as he kind of said, when he typically plans it out a lot, it doesn't really go his way. So I think he's just kind of winging it, and I can actually see him nailing this first game week captain. So,
dude, I kind of like that argument too because I hate the triple captain just sitting in my back pocket all season. I kind of like C4's idea of using a game week 1, so I'm going to say C4 as well.
I will say this too, that me personally, I actually tend to do really, really well in the first game week. I think the past 3 seasons, I've been in first or second place in our mini league, and after
Last
the first
year you were
game week,
second.
a couple of years back was when United won 4-0 in the opening game week, and I captained Lukaku with a brace or something. But whoever I'm picking is really who you guys want to follow for the first game week, and I think I'm going with Aubameyang. So I'm putting this out there to the FPL world right now. I think Aubameyang is going to do really well the first game week, and I think my team is going to soar.
Especially if he signs the thing. Especially if he signs. Can you imagine that announcement next day, hat trick?
Announcement, feeling good. 3-0 loss to Fulham.
Typical Arsenal fashion.
We got to get that statue started. Yeah, so I can't wait to see one of you guys eat some wings on the episode. That'll be fun. Yeah, besides that, I think we're all wrapped up here, right? Yeah. So that's it for our pre-game week 1 episode here. Yeah, good luck to everybody setting your teams. Reach out to us on Twitter or Instagram leading up to the game week if you have any last-minute questions. We'll be on pretty heavily on Friday. We'll be locked and loaded, ready to go, ready to answer your last-minute questions. So, yeah, feel free to send it to us. And make sure you subscribe. Make sure you join our mini league. I don't know if we got up to an even 50 yet. Last time I checked, we were at 49. So hopefully we get a lot of people on our mini league. And, yeah, any final words, anybody? C4, you have one more thing to say?
I just quickly, because I think this is our last episode before the season kicks off, I just want 2 predictions from each of you. Who's going to win the Premier League and who's going to be the highest scoring Premier League or FPL player this season?
That's great. That's really great. Taz?
I think Man City are going to win the Premier League, and then the highest scoring player, I'm going to go with, I'm going to say Aubameyang. I think him moving to midfield is going to get an extra point for that goal. And then, if Arsenal can keep at least 15 clean sheets, that's an extra 15 points. Being optimistic here, but yeah, I think I'm Aubameyang.
I love it. Gash?
As much as it pains me to say it, I also think City are going to win the league. And my pick for the highest scoring player is Jadon Sancho. I think he's going to be the top FPL scoring player this season.
I can't wait until he doesn't come and get 0 FPL points.
Oh, he's gonna tear this league up this season for Man United.
C4.
Spurs to win the league, and then highest scoring player Raheem Sterling.
Spurs to win the league?
I know, he just glosses over it like it's nothing.
Yeah, he just said that and just kept talking. What? Yeah. Spurs? I didn't even hear who your choice was for the player.
Highest scoring player, Raheem Sterling.
That's kind of ridiculous too, but not as ridiculous as the Spurs. Jeez, man, that's crazy. Yeah, I think we're gonna have another
stands for.
I think we're gonna have another St. Tottenham day this year. I think Arsenal are finishing above Spurs, but they're not winning the league. My pick for the league once again is Liverpool. I can't see them losing it. Yeah, sorry, Gash. I think it's gonna be another Liverpool year. And as far as top fantasy asset, oh man, I'm really thinking about this one. I'm thinking hard. Fuck it. Give me Salah. Salah's back on top this year.
Whoa. Don't go crazy, dude.
Whoa.
Revolutionary. Who would have seen that?
Yeah. All right. So that wraps up episode 5. And good luck, everybody, this season. Make sure you stay connected with us. We're looking forward to bringing you some great content all year long. And yeah, thanks, everybody. Thanks, C4. Thanks, Gash. Thanks, Taz. And we'll see everybody next week. Peace.
See ya.